high above the earth, in a land where the sky stretched forever and the air shimmered with icy magic, snowflakes were born. Crafted with care by snow fairies, each snowflake was a tiny masterpiece, unique in its delicate symmetry. Lila was one of the last snowflakes formed that evening. The fairies had worked tirelessly, their laughter mingling with the soft hum of the wind. Lila's crystal arms were finely shaped, and her center sparkled faintly like a hidden gem. She was still forming when a sudden gust of wind caught the basket of snowflakes where she rested. Before she knew it, Lila was tumbling through the air. "Wait!" she cried, her tiny voice lost in the rushing wind. "I've got you." The wind murmured gently, its voice warm and steady. It caught her in a soft current, cradling her fragile body. "Thank you," Lila whispered, trembling. "But I wasn't ready. I didn't even say goodbye to the fairies." The wind swirled around her, almost like a comforting hug. "I know, little one, but your journey has begun and you can't return now." Lila's edges quivered. "I don't know where to go. I wasn't finished. I don't know what I'm meant to do." "That's the beauty of it," said the wind softly. "You don't need to know yet. The world is waiting for you to discover it." The wind's words settled over Lila, but the ache in her center remained. For a while, she let herself drift, watching the world below with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Snow-covered forests stretched out like a great white quilt, rivers gleamed like silver threads, and villages twinkled with lights. "What is it like down there?" Lila asked the wind. "It's many things," the wind replied. "It's gentle and harsh, quiet and loud, bright and shadowed. But one thing it always is, alive. Every moment changes, every moment teaches. Go and see for yourself." Lila hesitated. "But I'm just a snowflake. What can I possibly do?" "You can be," said the wind simply. For a moment, Lila didn't understand. But as the wind carried her lower, she decided to stop questioning and start observing. The first thing she noticed was the quiet. Though the world was full of movement, there was a stillness in the air that felt different from the clouds. It wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. Lila's sadness began to soften. She twirled gently, taking in her surroundings. She floated over a forest where trees stood like sentinels, their branches bare and reaching. A deer passed below, its breath curling like smoke in the crisp air. Lila marveled at its grace and strength, her thoughts quieting as she watched. "Do you see how it walks?" the wind asked, sensing her wonder. "Yes," Lila whispered. "It's careful, yet it seems sure of itself." "That's how it survives," the wind said. "It knows the forest can be both kind and unforgiving, but it trusts its instincts, and it finds its way." The wind's words stayed with Lila as they moved onward. Her sadness wasn't gone, but it felt lighter, like a weight she could carry without breaking. As they floated over a small village, Lila noticed a boy sitting on the steps of a quiet yard. His head was bowed, his hands clasped tightly together. He wore a thick jacket and scarf, but his face was pale, and his eyes were red as though he'd been crying. "What is he doing?" Lila asked. "He's wishing," the wind said. "For what?" "For something he's lost," the wind replied. "Someone he loves isn't here anymore, and he's asking for a sign that he's not alone." The boy's voice trembled as he whispered into the night. "I wish you were here, Grandpa. You always loved the first snowfall. You'd sit with me on the porch and say the snowflakes were angels' whispers. If you're watching, could you send me a sign? Just one snowflake, just so I know you're there." Lila's heart ached. She could see the boy's sadness, and it mirrored her own. For a moment, she hovered, unsure of what to do. "Can I help him?" she asked quietly. "Sometimes," the wind said, "helping is simply being there." Lila nodded. She let the wind guide her down until she landed softly on the boy's hand. He gasped, his breath hitching as he stared at her. "You're the first snowflake," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Grandpa always said the first snowflake was the most special. Are you his sign?" Lila didn't know how to answer, but she stayed as still as she could, letting the boy take in her presence. As he gazed at her, a small smile began to form on his lips. "Thank you," he whispered. "I don't know how, but I feel like you're telling me he's watching, that he's with me." Lila began to melt, her icy form merging with the warmth of his hand. But as she faded, she felt no sadness. She had been there when the boy needed her, and that was enough. The wind carried her spirit upward, its voice soft with pride. "Do you understand now, little one?" "I think I do," Layla replied. Sometimes it's not about what you're made for, it's about what you choose to do. I didn't change the world, but I changed a moment, and that matters. It matters very much, the wind said. As Lila rose higher, her essence scattered like stardust, carried by the currents. She didn't know where she would go next, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had learned that even the smallest, quietest things could leave a mark on the world. And so Lila's journey continued. One moment, one choice, one glimmer of light at a time. If my stories bring a little magic or comfort to your day, I'd be so grateful for your support. You can scan the QR code or visit the link in the description to help me continue creating these heartfelt tales. Every little bit means the world. Thank you, and I wish you the most inspiring holiday season.